All right. I'll wait again for another second. It said Facebook cut us off. I don't know what's going on yet.
Yeah. And it might be too many people streaming right now.
This time of night, that's the best guess.
Yeah.
It really doesn't stress me out because I've dealt with technical difficulties for the podcast stuff forever, but I hate when you do it live because it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Well, lucky for you, I got a new computer. You don't hear the humming of my computer this time.
Yeah.
I've done webinars and podcasts where people are like, do you hear that humming? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's my computer. I can do about that. I'm sorry.
It's like a fine-tuned engine.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll give people a chance to hop back on. Come on, Facebook. Do us well here. I think people... All right, we're back up. People are coming back over here. Give them a second. Sorry, guys. There's got to be some bandwidth issues going on that are out of our controlio. I have to let Matt know too, because he's posting it. Repost new live vid. All right, Kate. Just in case, go back into your background a little bit for people who are just showing up here, and let them know what's going on, what you do, all the good stuff.
So, as I said before, for those of you who are just joining us, my background is in both sports medicine and sports science. I did that for my undergrad, and then I went on to get a master's in sports psych and rounded off my career with the ability to work with a whole athlete, getting a degree in clinical psychology. So my practice is split. I do about 50% performance enhancement work. That's really allowing athletes to compete in ways that align with their values as well as their goals, their best version of themselves competitively. I also do clinical work. So I treat anxiety, depression, eating disorders, trauma, and I really work to treat the whole athlete.
Do you have a preference between working with athletes in the performance sector and then the clinical sector as well? Do you have a preference between those two, or is it kind of nice to be able to bounce back and forth a little bit?
Actually, a really awesome balance to bounce between the two. I always thought that I would like the clinical work more, but as I've gotten back into sport and performance work, I really enjoy that. And I find that there is a lot of depth with that. I mean, performance issues are never just performance issues. There's something going on underneath that. You have to scratch kind of below and see what's really going on. So I find both to be very gratifying. And ultimately, what I love to do is help people overcome obstacles and challenges and become the best versions of themselves, which we do in both areas.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for sports, what kind of athletes are you working with? What sport? What? Oh,
any and every sport.
Yeah.
I see a lot. With my background. So for those of you who don't know, my background is in cycling, in endurance sports. So I do see a lot of endurance athletes, cyclists, runners, triathletes, swimmers. We do a lot of work around suffering. How do you suffer? How do you really psychologically develop skills to be able to suffer at a high level? So I see a lot of endurance athletes, but I see a lot of gymnasts gymnastics, there's an intrinsic or inherent risk of injury each and every time you train. So I work with a lot of gymnasts to overcome fear of the beam, splitting the beam, those sorts of things. I see a lot of ball sports. So soccer, I do a lot of soccer, baseball, softball, basketball. I've worked with archery. I mean, you name it, I've probably worked with it at this point in my career.
Okay, I've played a lot of the sports that you're talking about. And before we get into some of the main conversation, we'll start taking questions in a little bit. But all right, so if I was in a slump, which happened for most baseball players in college, usually happens once a year, even for the best players. And usually once a year, and usually it didn't feel like a slump until about the third game. And then you start getting in your own head, So what would be some tactics for a baseball player to get out of their own head and start performing again? What are some things that you would do with those guys?
So I'm working with a baseball player right now. So speak of the devil. One of the most important things for any athlete who's really in a slump is getting out of your head. Use that term, get in my own head. So we really work on externalizing how do I get out of my head. So that starts with simple techniques, mindfulness-based sorts of stuff, or what are 5 things I see, 5 things I hear, literally getting out of your head, but into the present moment in time and giving yourself some perspective of what's going on. And then we always focus on controllables. What do I actually have control over? So we come up with basically what I call an adversity response plan. What are 2 or 3 steps I can take when I've just struck out or when I've just walked again to get back up to bat and feel confident and believe that I can read the pitch and hit the ball. So it usually has something to do with regulating the nervous system, breathing technique of some sort, self-talk. What do I actually have control of? So action steps, performance-based goals. I can't control the pitch that's thrown at me, but I can control the way I'm stepping up to the plate. I can control my mechanics. I can focus on the things that I know set me up to be a successful batter at that moment in time.
Where in the hell were you in 1999?
I was still in college.
Yeah. How old are you?
40.
Yeah, we're the same age. I mean, I'm a year older than you, but it would have been nice to have, believe it or not, throwing a temper tantrum and dropping F-bombs at the top of your lungs does not help you hit better next time.
I'm pretty much guaranteed recipe for failure.
Yes. Although, I'm not going to brag. Okay, so it's funny. Like, I mean, most baseball, gymnastics, like you mentioned, soccer to an extent, but a lot of these like isolated sports where like eyes are on this one person. Golf is a really good example. You have to have this psychotic confidence for short periods of time in your ability to really do well. A lot of other sports, like basketball, yeah, when you're at the free throw line. A lot of other sports where there's just constant motion, it's easier to kind of get lost in the game. But man, the sports where the eyes are on you, there's just so much confidence that comes from that. You gotta realize when you get off the field, you can't have that same edge necessarily, or you shouldn't always. You know? Okay, so when you're thinking about when you're talking about getting out of your head, controllables. Let's take that to general population, recreational athletes. I'm sure you work with recreational athletes as well, people who want to do really well. But when we go into Manic, we're like right now trying to get the motivation up to put the same effort at home that we do at Manic. What are some ways to get out of your head? Because we all have bad days even at the gym, you know? So what are some techniques that people listening can take?
Right. So I think first, know your purpose, know why you're showing up to the gym, or know why you're choosing to do a Manic workout by yourself in your garage or in your backyard. Really having a really obvious, also then a really distinct connection between your value and your goal. So why am I doing this? Part of the willingness to suffer is having a passion and a joy within that suffering. And so if you're going to do it, know why you're doing it, whether it's you're training for a race that may or may not happen in 2 or 3 months, whether it's you're doing it just because you want to be fit enough and strong enough to keep up with your family or your younger children, whether it's you've just had a baby and you want to get your body back and you just want to feel strong and confident. Again, really knowing why you're showing up, and then focus on things that you do have control over. So you don't have control over the workout that is being programmed that day. You definitely, at home, you can modify it on your own, right? Scout's honor in that sense. But really focusing on what you do have control over, which is your attitude. How are you showing up? If you're showing up negative, like, gosh, I don't want to be here. I'm so mad that we're all shut down. I can't believe we have to do this. If you show up with a negative attitude, you're guaranteed a pretty rotten experience in your workout, versus if you show up willing or eager or you set your sights on lower weights and just focus on the movement and the technique within that. That's another piece, really focus on the technique. So maybe it's, I don't have access to the weight I normally would have at Manic, but at home I've got lesser weight, so I can really focus on my technique and my mobility and my range of motion and really try to work on maybe some of my weaknesses that I haven't been targeting or focusing on in the gym because I've been so caught up with keeping up with other people or doing heavier weights or really pushing myself in ways that have kind of come at the expense of my technique or my form. So I would say all of those, and those are all controllable, right? Attitude, totally in control over. Effort, 100% control over. Technique, you have to have the awareness of your body to know what that correct form and technique, but you totally are in control of that. And so this might be a good time to work on some of the things you haven't been able to work on at the gym because you've been so caught up just in kind of the movement and the energy of the gym itself.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because you're talking about controllables, and I think just being from a small business owner for most of my career, and you have like negotiations fall through, you have high stress, big celebrations, all these like crazy ups and downs, but you got to realize like if you can stay in the middle, you're going to be better off. With the stuff, especially for gym owners and service-based people, that's happened in the last week, just looking at peers that own gyms that just got inside their own, like literally got inside their own head. They did not think of the things that they could do. They just thought about how everything was coming down on them. The reason me and Pete worked so well together, and I'll throw the other coaches in there as well, but we did a lot of the strategy on this stuff, was because we just took action and we knew what we could control from the first second. So it wasn't really, I mean, of course it's an adjustment. We're all in a place that we don't want to be right now, but it feels like a new normal in as short a period of time as possible. And I think that's pretty cool just listening to you talk about that. So we got, as questions come in, I think we'll just take them. I'm not going to feel like our agenda's bigger than the questions, because that's what makes this stuff fun, I think. So we'll go Susie Lewis. How do you think the Olympic athletes are feeling right now with the games being postponed? I'll say a short piece and let Kate go into it. One of my first clients out here, athletes, she has been training for the Olympics for modern pentathlon. She is 27 or 28 right now, since she was 18 years old. And she missed 2 Olympics in a row by split hairs, like that much, you know? And she finally qualified for Tokyo. And I'm actually talking to her tomorrow for just to get her perspective for a podcast, because she's got more time right now too. So we'll find out. We'll find out from first person. But I have plenty of ideas, but from like a psychological standpoint, what do you think, Kate?
Heartbroken. I think there's probably a lot of heartbreak right now. I work with a lot of NCAA student athletes who have their seasons taken away. A lot of college student. A lot of high school student athletes who also had their seasons taken away. And whether it is, a junior student athlete who's training for the Olympic trials and they just want to make it to the trials, or somebody who's actually going to qualify for the Olympics. And in sports, it's kind of funny because not all athletes have actually had the opportunity to qualify for this Olympic year. A lot of them are just Olympic hopefuls at this point. But I think there's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of heartbreak with regards to, I've been working so hard for, 4, 5, 6 months, as Scott mentioned, years, a decade towards the goal that I've been working hard to realize. And finally, this is my year, and it's been taken away from me to no fault of my own and no fault of anybody else. But also within that heartache and that heartbreak, I do think there's a lot of comfort in every single athlete's in the same exact position right now. Right. So a lot of athletes have told me over the past couple of weeks, I take comfort in knowing it's not just me right now. We're all in the same boat of uncertainty, of confusion, of heartache. And just, they all have this clarity and this purpose. Well, I'm going to continue to train, and I'm going to continue to hope that I can compete in ways that are meaningful to me this year, whether it's I come back for a cross-country season this fall, or I still get to make it to Olympic trials and hopefully make it to the Olympics later in the year. I think there's still a lot of purpose and conviction of, if I'm working this hard towards a goal, I'm not going to give it up. And everybody's in the same boat, so we're all working together to figure out how do we create meaning and structure and purpose during a really uncertain period.
I just found another functionality. All right, next question. It's so hard to host these shows because I'm learning a lot, like, as we go, and I'm listening. I'm trying to have a good question, all this stuff. So Laura Wolf, as we can see right here on the thing.
Oh,
can you see it?
Yes, I can.
All right. So I think we both can come at this one with the experience piece. Any advice for parents teaching kids to work out and have a positive attitude? You go first, Kate.
So my advice is to have no agenda at all. Make it fun. The best way to get kids moving is to make it, something about play, something about fun, make it joyful. If they feel like they have to work out, or their parents are wanting them to work out, then it's going to really create an adverse response with regards to motivation, as well as willingness and joy. So, I mean, for young kids, Laura, I don't know how old your kids are, but for most kids, play is the best way to move their bodies and the best way to learn how to work out and keep the body strong. So I would encourage games, not so much of like, hey, let's go for a run, but let's play ultimate frisbee, or let's play soccer at the park, or let's go for a hike. Make it a fun adventure, or some sort of game that feels competitive, but still play. I think is the best way to get kids moving. If it's a little bit older kid who maybe they've aged out of play-based movement, I think they still can enjoy that. And it's just coming up with something that 11 and 13. Yeah. So they might be a little bit older. They might think, I don't want to go play ultimate frisbee with my mom, or I don't want to go run around, play tag in the backyard. But I think you can still find ways to bring joy and play to movement. So maybe bringing them on a hike or an adventure, really making it about something that they might enjoy versus feeling like they need to move their bodies to meet, the recommendations for movement and exercise on a daily basis. If you make it about numbers and metrics and recommendations, there's going to be a lot of resistance there. And it's also going to become a stigmatized activity with regards to they have to do it. And really the ultimate concern is there must be something wrong with me if I have to go exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would go even like anecdotal for myself, besides the fact that I've coached thousands of young athletes, and you can always pick out the athletes who don't want to be there. Even to this day, I think probably 4 years into my career, anytime a parent would come to hire me to train their kids, if they were over 13, there was never, ever any contract signed until there was a sit down where that kid would confirm that what they're about to do is what they want to do. It's not their mom and dad doing it. And I could tell pretty early on. And if I could tell that the kid didn't want to do it, but he or she wasn't getting out of it, then the training would turn into way less intense. And I would just have fun with them. If they really want to get after it, then so setting expectations depending on what your goal is. Like 11 and 13-year-olds, like they're getting into some competitive sports. They might want to actually get after it, but they might not. They're like right on that fringe age-wise of when it really switches. But I think kind of speaking to you, if you can gamify things that give you the end result without feeling like work. I hated running until I was probably 30 years old. I wanted to chase the ball around, So if you gamify things, distract your kids. And then I always add this for kids, like play is the most important thing. You want kids to turn into adults that play. I heard a lecture a long time ago from a clinical psychologist, and the lesson and the quote that I took away was that the opposite of play is not work. The opposite of play is depression. And if you understand the importance of play and free play and just getting out there and being free with your movements, once you do that, then your body's going to adapt to the movements anyway, and then you're going to want to do things for the fitness or the performance of it all. But your body doesn't just pop out being that intense or whatever. So yeah, I think gamifying things is huge for kids for sure.
And I would say even, if it's a kid who maybe they're not adventure oriented or activity focused, if they'd really rather be reading books or, indoor type activities, make it a game that's something that they enjoy. So maybe it's a treasure hunt of let's go see how many green flowers we can find, or, make it a treasure hunt of sorts where there is excitement and adventure there, but it's not so much of we have to go for a week or we have to go, do this workout type activity. It can be more of back when I was a kid, we would go knock on kids' doors for scavenger hunt. Do you have a pop can? Do you have, and you would kind of go around looking for random stuff. You can always do that too. Everybody's home. I guess social distancing, you can't really knock on doors, but you can still look around the neighborhood to try and find things.
Absolutely. What was the last point? Yeah. And the last thing I would say about kids is that, and I'm learning it's the weirdest thing because, can you hear me?
I can. Mm-hmm.
All right, there's some unmute button just came up. I was like, I think I'm good. So yeah, my kids are 2.5 years apart. My oldest kid reads a book a day, literally a book a day. And my youngest kid, he's just learning how to read. My youngest kid likes to throw and catch and do like the obsessive sport skills. And my oldest kid just likes free play and he'll run up and down stairs for fun for hours. So realizing how much different that mentality is to go and exercise is for both of them, creating similar experiences that touch on both of those skill sets or both of those mentalities with one activity it's hard, but you can do it with kids. Like today we did an obstacle course where there's some dribbling the basketball and some running around, and then there's also like running kind of a far distance and touching something and coming back. So just kind of meeting your kids in the middle based on what they like with work. Right. I think that helps a lot. We're all still learning. I don't think anybody has a perfect answer for that, but we're just kind of doing it. Pete Buth, he's involved with Manic in a way. No, just kidding. So I'll read this question. What advice would you give to those that are working in healthcare industry, nurses, doctors, first responders, who are working overtime and they're forced to be quarantined at home and they're trying to find their normal?
Um, I think it really depends on the person. And I mean, my blanket answer is practice self-care, whatever that looks like. So if they are exhausted because they've been working long hours and then they come home and they forced to be quarantined, giving themselves permission to sleep for 12 hours or to binge watch a series, I think for them, part of it is figuring out ways that they can disconnect meaningfully, but also giving their bodies and their minds rest. But also then if working out and moving their bodies is an important value and part of their day-to-day normal activity, maybe bringing their standards or expectations for what they're going to do down, right? So maybe it's I can't complete a full manic workout because I'm exhausted mentally and physically, but I know that I could do the warm up. Or maybe it's I don't want to do the workout, but I want to be a part of the community and I just want to have some social connection. I'm going to hop on to the live podcast or the happy hours you're doing. I think really looking within and figuring out what is going to fill me up right now and not having expectations or standards for, well, this is what I would normally do, so I need to keep up with that. We are in a crisis, and so it's going to be short-lived. It will pass, and they can get back to the routine. So if their fitness drops a bit, give themselves compassion, show themselves some grace and allow themselves space to breathe and sleep and rest if that's really what their minds and bodies are needing. But also then realizing that they'll step it up when things slow down and they get back into their routine and their schedule with regards to having a healthy life balance.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that part of it's unprecedented in our modern society, but we've never dealt with anything quite this crazy. So, yeah, I think people are going to figure it out. I would definitely say go to your tenets, like take exercise out of the mix, and just go to things that are going to work, like the hydration and just good nutrition and the sleep. Like those 3 things alone are going to take care of your body as much as anything. You're probably not, like you said, you're not going to want to go the same intensity. It just doesn't make sense for this type of situation. But you do want to move. You want to open up, get some endorphins in there that are non-stress related endorphins, like going for a walk and getting some fresh air. So it looks like we have beautiful weather coming up. Definitely getting out and doing that kind of stuff.
And I think even setting small goals, but knowing it may amount to something more, right? So maybe it's I'm going to go for a walk, but if I feel like running, I might do a walk run, or I'm going to do the warm up with the Manic community. But if my muscles start to open up and I get my lungs opened up and I start to feel good, maybe I'll do the whole workout or a portion of the workout. So I would say maybe commit to a small type of activity if you want to be moving, and trust that if your body really wants to move and really wants to exercise, then as you warm up, you'll know that and really listen to that intuition within.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know about you, Kate, but my activity level is way down in the last, whenever I got back last Tuesday. In the last week, oh my gosh, because I've literally been sitting on the stupid chair for like 10 to 12 hours a day, whether it's coaching virtual clients. So like I've been coaching, doing one-on-one training with one of my clients who's a double amputee with FaceTime. And I'm trying to get him to get a tripod because I'm literally looking at lights in his house. I'm counting his reps because he's using metal dumbbells. I'm counting his reps based on sound. It's just hilarious. Awesome. So, but he's really committed and he really wants to stick with it. And so, a lot of our job is accountability in so many ways. So we're holding him accountable. But yeah, good advice for sure. And then I would say just a huge thank you. I would go beyond the healthcare. I went to the grocery store today. If you go to Walgreens or grocery store, I mean, you got kids and other people working there that are in close contact with people all day long, and they probably don't want to be there, but you got to make a living. And our grocery stores got to stay open. Like certain places have to go. So I would give them a big shout out too. They're probably dealing with some stressed out, anxious, potentially rude people, even more than usual. We have a really important question, Kate. I'm going to put this up. Scott, important question. What beer are you drinking? And Kate, if you have a beverage of choice, please share. This is it's called Juicy Haze from Voodoo Ranger, New Belgium. It's pretty good. My wife has learned, if you are going to send me to the grocery store after 5 o'clock on like a 14-hour workday, Colorado messed up. I'm probably bringing home some kind of beer, man. It's just going to happen.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So bad. Do you have a beverage of choice even if you're not drinking right now?
Currently I'm drinking water because I just got home from work. But my beverage of choice, well, it kind of varies. I like trying to remember. I actually always ask my husband Eric what kind of beer I like because I don't actually know brands. But I like wheat beers.
Sweets, yeah.
There's actually a beer I had, and I can't remember the name. I can see the label. It's purple and pink. It's a boysenberry beer. It's not super sweet, but it has a little bit of a sweeter flavor. I really enjoyed that one. I've tried Breckenridge. They have an acai beer that came out recently. That's pretty good.
Nice.
Oh, there's a brewery in Golden that has an orange cream ale. It's like an orange creamsicle from being a kid. It's amazing. I don't know the name or the brewery.
That sounds good.
So whenever I go over there, I get a growler so I can bring it home and have it.
So you're going for like the fruity, soury type stuff?
Not even sour, more fruit or just kind of like the wheat beer, like Blue Moon go-to. If I'm somewhere and I don't know what I want, that's like an easy go-to for me.
Yeah, that's like a good airport drink when you don't want to go through the list. Let's see. Oh, Pete said give Good River a shout out. Actually, Pete bought some beer from Good River Beer Company, and they're what's it called? Hazy IPA, really good. But small business. We're trying. One of the things we're trying to do. I was in Rio the other day and met the general manager and just seeing if he wanted to get the word out a little bit more. So we're gonna kind of like what me and you doing, Kate. Just get some of these local business owners out and because they can still. You can still do takeout and stuff, and just potentially support some of those guys. So, what's the biggest challenge for you right now in your household and your work?
We are very fortunate that we're relatively unaffected right now. With my daughter being in preschool, I mean, we're not missing a ton of school. She's missing out on her friendships and that idea of getting to hang out with her friends. But school-wise, we're not feeling the pressure of having to teach our kids anything right now. Work-wise, I feel relatively unaffected. I think the biggest decision for me is with all of the shelter in home and the mandates being made, I am an essential business, but continually daily assessing whether or not meeting with people in person versus virtually is the better choice. I have a lot of people who really need to see me in person, or a lot of people who live alone, and I'm literally the only person they get to talk to in person over the course of 7 days. Constantly assessing needs for healthcare and mental health care versus protecting physical and medical health, I think is the greatest stress right now. But I feel very fortunate that our family's set up in a way that we are fairly unaffected. So I feel very blessed by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you hear the essential business thing, it's like every small business owner is going to find a way to decide that they're essential. I just believe in prevention. I mean, it's one. Even in my degree, even in my master's, you can go two ways. You can go exercise science, and you can go cardiac rehab with all of the education we had. And you kind of get to your last semester, and you decide your course load based on which direction you want to go. And for me, it was going to be working with athletes, and then eventually working with people trying to get healthy and prevent chronic disease, which I just am pretty passionate about. It's why everything I've ever done has to do with getting people to move. And you take it into the macro with a virus like this, and everything to get over this as quickly as possible is for us to do what we need to do to prevent the spread of this disease. Kind of tongue in cheek, I posted the other day just about heart disease, and like this is killing hundreds of thousands of people a year in the States. The biggest killer or for female, just stuff like that. You just think of how important just preventative care is and mental health care is. And like you said, like I have clients that aren't around that many people. And the interaction is the thing for a lot of people. So,
I mean, with depression particularly, connection is critical. So it is a day-to-day decision. I monitor it every day. People on telehealth who I think can manage that and who are healthy and stable enough to be there. But there are definitely people who are thinking about and trying to manage the best decision for them. Which, can I mention something that I was going to say about your post on cardiac care?
Yeah, for sure.
Topic, but I wanted to say, and so what you didn't mention, and I think actually with the community we're speaking to is really important, that new research coming out of the Barbara Streisand Center is showing that amenorrhea is also linked to cardiac disease later in life. And so the sedentary population who's at risk, but we also have these very active female athletes who sometimes have energy imbalances causing amenorrhea. And we're finding that those women are also at risk for cardiac disease later in life. So,
wow. So like the female triage and high level athletes who are depleted, and that's another hour and a half conversation. But it's interesting. I mean, I think it's important to touch on that for sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make, because some people think, well, I'm an athlete, I'm super healthy, I'm fit, I run ultras, whatever. But if they're not getting their period, they're not guaranteeing protection from heart disease. In fact, they're increasing the risk of it.
Wow. That is interesting. Yeah. I mean, heart disease, diabetes, like these things are so preventable. Now, there's always going to be a genetic component, but you talk to somebody on the street and they're like, "Oh, my genetics." Like, yeah, there's a component. It's not as big as you think it is. It's the lifestyle is such a big part of it, and I've never met anybody in the medical industry who has not agreed with that, because it's what you learn. I mean, it's day one learning in school. Got another question here. It's Pete again. Somebody asked us the other day, the obesity epidemic, will it get better or worse because of the quarantine shutdown? Well, I think that's kind of a fun question more than anything. I would say it depends on how long the shutdown is. That's number one. I would also say the longer the shutdown is, I think the healthier people potentially would be, because the temptations for people who have really bad habits are typically out of their home. If you can control your microenvironment, everything that's around you in your house. For instance, if I didn't buy a beer, I'm not drinking a beer. So if my finances are struggling, I'm going to go buy bread before I buy beer. I'm not going to buy things that are in packages necessarily. I mean, it's regional too, I would say. And then the fact that people are going to realize how cooped up they feel and getting outside, maybe getting more exercise. There's some stuff out recently that more people are running because they don't have the access to gyms and stuff. So it's how they're getting an orphan kick. So I would say optimistically, because I'm an optimist, I would hope that people would start moving a little bit more potentially. But I also say it's going to be very regional. It's going to be based on the people that you're stuck in your house with too. I mean, the attitudes and knowledge base on that would matter. What about you, Kate?
I actually think it's gonna be better. Our house backs to the open space here in Highlands Ranch, and we have seen since the school closures, really, but as things continue to escalate and the social distancing and the quarantines are increasing, more people than ever we've seen outside. I actually feel really hopeful and optimistic, because I can look out my window any time of day and there's a constant stream of people walking and running. My husband and I commented that we see more dogs out than we've ever seen, because people actually, one, have time to take their dogs out. They're not at activities and out doing other things. They're actually at home. They're forced to be at home, which is increasing movement. But I'm also seeing like families with parents and adolescents, like groups that you would never see out walking. I'm seeing whole families out walking together. So I do think that even though maybe I can't get to the gyms or do the workouts we're used to doing, there's a whole population of people who never move their bodies that are actually out walking right now, because it's the only leisure activity they can do outside of their home. So I actually feel really hopeful maybe it's going to shift the lifestyle towards more activity-based for the general population. The athletes are finding a way to survive. So the athletes are always going to be fit, right? The people who enjoy fitness are going to find ways to move their body. But there's a whole population of people who are starting to move again because it's simply their only choice. So hopefully that catches on and sticks as things get back to normal.
I mean, could it be possible, and this would be beautiful, Kate, could it be possible that people are getting sick of social media and they're exercising just to get away from the computer and the TV? I mean, if we can make that fundamental switch in some way, like online is amazing. Like it fuels my business. I've met some of the most amazing people around the world, around the country. It's really, really cool. But that's not how the majority of people use the internet. It's definitely more of a negative connotation. So that would be really cool if there's some kind of correction for that.
Yeah. I mean, my recommendation would be spend as little time as you can on social media right now.
So. Yes, as far as consuming, I would say. Yes, I think positive creation.
Get off if you're just mindlessly scrolling.
Yeah, that's so bad. I don't know. Like my social media is, I wake up and I look at some of the headlines. Curious, I want to know if there's anything around the world that purely affects us, and then I just create stuff. If you can get I'm a business owner and a marketing person for my businesses. If you can get your consumption versus creation to 50-50, you will be a lot mentally healthier online. Most people are about 10-90. Create 10, consume 90. And the creation for most people is reactions to things that they're pissed off about.
Right.
If you try to put like a positive thing, I don't know. It's kind of a philosophy that I've given myself for business stuff and for life stuff. If you can create 75% of the time, for a business owner, you're doing really good. All right, we got Pivy. What would be your advice for people who have increased anxiety and fear about this uncertain situation? What can they do? What could they do?
So kind of going along with that social media, I would say limit your consumption of social media. There's a lot of reactive and emotionally charged going along right now. So if you're somebody who does struggle with anxiety or fear, I would say limit your time on social media, because that just continues to stimulate your brain and continues to poke at that fear center that you've got going. One of the biggest things that I'm always talking about people with is if you're saying, what if this happens? What if that happens? You're living in the future. You have no control over the future. If it's a realistic fear, what if my kids don't get to go back to school this year and I need to homeschool them? Or what if my job is cut because of demand? Those sorts of fears are real. So think through them. Come up with if this were the worst case scenario and I need to have a plan, come up with an action plan, a response plan to that. Similar to what if my house catches on fire? How do we all get out, right? You need to have that plan. You don't want to think about that when your house is on fire. So come up with a plan, but once your plan's in place, come back to the present and focus on today and what you actually have control over. Because ultimately, in uncertainty, we only have control over this present moment in time. And within that, we only have control over our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own actions. So coming back to what you do have control over and really focusing on finding purpose, finding meaning, finding certainty within that. So for a lot of people, that's creating a structure, a routine. A lot of people have been negatively affected because their normal routines, their normal structures from day to day have been interrupted. They don't get to go to work at the same time. They don't come home, or their kids aren't gone at the same times and coming home at the same times. So really coming up with a new routine that works for you or your family, whoever you're closely connected to. And that starts to build certainty. You know that this is what we're doing throughout the day, or I know that this is what I'm doing throughout the day. That immediately alleviates anxiety. As Scott mentioned, kind of focus on the most basic forms of self-care, making sure you're getting quality sleep, make sure you're hydrating your body, make sure you're fueling your body adequately, moving your body in ways that feel good to you. But ultimately, it comes down to focusing on your controllables. It comes down to creating structure within your day. And it really, like I said, really limiting your access to the things that maybe escalate your fear. So if it's social media or constantly reading the CDC's website, limiting that. You don't need to know the most recent stats of how many cases of COVID there are in the US or how many cases there are in Colorado or in Douglas County. Okay, maybe I check it once a day just to make sure I'm making informed decisions about how we're leading life. But beyond that, I don't need to know the latest and greatest, nor do I need to know the emotionally based reactions to that stuff.
Awesome. That's a great answer, Kate. Matt has a question before that, just a little lighter question. This one's from me. Who's your favorite coach at Manic? Just kidding. All right, let's go to Matt.
I was so confused. I was like, I don't see Matt's question.
I know, just mess with you. Because I was thinking about typing it up and then having you read it and know that I wrote it. Me and Pete do that all the time to people, and then we stop them before they answer because we don't want to know. It's probably not us. All right, Matt, why are we so afraid of uncertainty when everyday life is uncertain? Is that a biological thing or a psychological thing?
I would say both. If we think from the psychological perspective, it's really, we feel out of control, and every human being craves some level of control or some sense of control. So uncertainty is kind of our normal routine that we feel like we have control over. We're making informed decisions. We're choosing to participate. That our boat's rocked in that way. And so the psychological sense is I feel out of control. I don't know if I have the ability to keep myself safe. I don't know if I can keep my family safe. Is our world going to be safe right there? That's really a sense of safety and a loss of control. So there's the psychological piece. The biological piece really comes down to our nervous systems. Just really basic anatomy. We've got sympathetic nervous system. That's our fight or flight. So caveman days, if a saber-toothed tiger was going to eat us, that told us to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe. The parasympathetic nervous system is the nervous system within our bodies that helps us rest and digest. That's our calming, quieting part of our body. When we feel out of control, when we feel that there's a threat to our safety, our parasympathetic nervous system is on overdrive. It feels as though that tiger is here to eat us. COVID being the tiger right now, what is it going to do to our country, to our homes, to our families, to our careers? So our bodies are responding as though we are in a fight or flight situation. And the threat is real, right? We do have a real threat that really can create a lot of harm and already has created a lot of harm within our community. So our bodies are physiologically responding to that threat. So how do we counter that? Like I just kind of talked about in the question before, focus on what we do have control over. Also integrating some calming activities. So that could be deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing definitely helps activate that parasympathetic nervous system. Restorative yoga, yin yoga, that really quiet flow yoga, not strength yoga, not hot yoga, but really that moving yoga can activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Mindfulness meditation is another great way to slow down that sympathetic nervous system and activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So I would say psychologically focus on what you do have control over, focus on creating routine and meaning every day. Physiologically, use calming activities, calming strategies to try and reset your nervous system. So we know that the threat is real, but if you're taking, like Scott said, all the preventative measures, working hard to contain the virus and protect your family and your home, then you know that the threat is relatively measured, or the risk is relatively measured at that point in time.
Awesome. Sympathetic, parasympathetic, that's the big one. All right, we got another question here. We've got Josh Napper. See that come on up there. What are some of your favorite motivation, mental health, or self-help personal reflection books or authors?
So one of my very favorite authors, his name is Jerry Lynch. He's a sports psychologist. He's been a sports psychologist longer than I've been alive. He's worked with a ton of championship teams. He's written like 20 books, but one of my very favorite books that he has is called The Spirit of the Dancing Warrior. And it's basically the chapters are about 3 pages, and it just focuses on a simple idea like character or integrity or confidence. And Jerry basically breaks down the idea, and then he gives you a little bit of direction to reflect on, and really just the way he wrote the book is to read a chapter a week and really sit with it. So it's meant to be read slowly over a long period of time, and really to be able to internalize the different concepts within the book. Brene Brown, she's a shame and resiliency perfection researcher. She's got a ton of great books out there as well. So I think she does really great work with regards to focusing inward on and looking at how does shame influence our short stories, or how does shame influence our decisions and how we are around people. So that's a great book when I think about kind of self-help, personal reflection type of book.
Nice. All right, Laura's got a question. Laura Wolf. Any favorite podcasts?
I've never actually listened to a podcast.
That's awesome. I don't know. I listen to some, but like I talk so much, I get sick of listening. But I listen to a handful. I listen more like businessy podcasts, marketing type stuff, more storytelling. Definitely nothing in sports performance, running, none of that. That would be like working at McDonald's and eating dinner every day. You know what I mean? That can't do that. There's a lot of good. I think the better question would be like what genre, because there's so many different genres out there. I'm usually looking for interesting people instead of just following one show all the time. So that's what I would do for sure. We're going to go for about 5 more minutes. Probably if Pete gets back to me, tease a little bit about the workout tomorrow. I'll be coaching tomorrow morning. It's going to be brutal. We live in a townhome over at Palomino Park. It's a beautiful townhome. 0 complaints besides the fact that I'm renting, and like if you do the math, you just want to puke on yourself. So we are getting into Pete. We are getting into a house here in the next week and a half. But I'll be outside of our garage, is kind of like behind the house. We have a little pavement area. So I'll be working out. It looks beautiful tomorrow, so I'll be working out outside with you guys. And I'll try to keep up with you. You guys are all beasts. The one thing that's been really cool is we've kept MindBody, the app up, Kate. And instead of using it to schedule the workouts, we're using it to record the workouts. So when you're done, you go in there, and you just schedule your, because we play like 11:30 at night. You just schedule like you're scheduling class, but it's really a checkoff. So yesterday we had almost 80 people that signed in and who did the workout, which is awesome. Like on a normal day at Manic, like a Tuesday, Thursday, we're seeing 90 to 100 people come through, and then on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're seeing about 140 to 150. So if you think about it, like more people probably did it. We're keeping everybody's moving pretty well, so it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Branson gave me a shout out. Okay, fine. Branson said, "I heard there's a great podcast that Scott Jones does. It's not great. It's not great, but it is a podcast." And we do one with we do a podcast with Manic, which has been awesome. We've learned a lot from a lot of our coaches and members. I've done one for freaking 6 years called Athlete on Fire, where we work with athletes all over the world, and that's really cool. And then I have one called Becoming Ultra, and it's literally just coaching calls with really high-level coaches who are high-level runners and their client who is running their first 50K or first ultra. So thanks, Branson. I don't really promote myself to this audience, but I appreciate that. That was really sweet. Pete said that your answer should be yours, Scott, when I asked who your favorite coach was. And I think I agree. I love our coaches. Our coaches are awesome. I just want to say a couple things about these guys. We got Mike keeping the energy up. We got Carrie, Julie, and Alan. Alan's just getting into it. He's probably only coached 10 or 15 classes. I'm just guessing. It doesn't seem like too many, but he is into the community and he's willing to do what it takes to be a part of this. And one thing that's pretty cool about him, he's been an athletic trainer over at Valor. And
cool.
The industry's tough. Like being an athletic trainer because you're on call for sporting events. So as a family man, it's just tough. I definitely sympathize with those guys. So he's trying to be a firefighter now, and he's coaching and trying to figure that all out. So we got Alan and Carrie's taking care. She has 3 boys at home during this time when kids can't go to school. So I definitely make sure she's got her hands full because, as I can see, it's my house. We have our hands full as well. Then of course Mike picking up coaching, helping out at the gym for some of the physical stuff, and helping us deliver the rows and bikes. And then of course Pete. Me and Pete have we've worked really well on this stuff. It's been pretty cool. So big shout out for all the coaches. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Let's keep it rolling for sure. A couple just little announcements, and then Kate, I'll let you have any kind of ending thoughts for people. So that's way you can kind of get your thoughts ready.
Okay.
So anything like just we'll see, because you really preach on being present. Why don't you, here in about 2 minutes, have something for people to take with them, like something tactical that we can all use to get started with our fitness and to give our energy into the right places, something like that. Just because with the new world. So that's what I think would be great to finish on. Our next bike and rower delivery will be on Thursday. We got a couple of you guys who did the 1,000 calories on the bike today. So you're gonna have a little fire butt for a couple days because those seats are not what we call ergonomic.
No, Scott, from your little 1,000-calorie grind out there.
Dude, like the fitness was hard, but I've done harder things fitness wise. I did it in an hour and like 20 seconds. That was pretty hard, but the friction was way worse than the fitness. I promise you. So Dave Kinsel killed it. He got in like an hour and 3 minutes today, which is brutal. So awesome, Dave. And then Jess, I think she tried to FaceTime me when she was on the thing, but I was with a client. So Jess, if you're listening, I couldn't answer. She said that she was an hour or 2 in, and she figured she wouldn't be able to walk. She told Pete to come grab the bike because she knew she wouldn't be able to walk for 2 days. So she did it. I forget what she said, 2 or 3. I think 3 hours it took her. So 3 hours on that bike.
Oh wow!
Lordy. So awesome, man. Good work on that. And then tomorrow's workout, let me see if I have any notes on that. I might not. We're working on it. You'll need your bodies. We know that much. But we'll post a workout tonight for the early birds, and then 8 o'clock we'll have some coaches on there. Morning coffee, Manic in the morning, and then I will take over at 9 o'clock and put you guys to the ringer. If you want a better experience for the workout, go live.host. It'll have the video. It will have the words like you see up on the board at the gym, and you don't have to worry about being social. You can be social if you want to, but it's just a different, better experience for sure. So That's what I got. All right, Kate, let's hear some closing comments, something tactical, some kind of skill people can take from this thing.
So when you say tactical, as you said, I talk mindfulness all day long. I think mindfulness as a skill and also a way of life is critical for both mental, emotional health, psychological health, but also fulfillment and joy within life. So, if mindfulness or the idea of meditation is overwhelming, really just even focusing on, if you're going out for a run or a walk, what are 5 things I've never noticed about my street, or 5 things I've never noticed on this trail that I normally walk? Because even on familiar trails, we become mindless. We get so familiar with the terrain and the course and where the turns are that we don't even bring that in. So it can really be a game of I Spy. What have I never noticed on this trail or on this walk or on my street? Likewise, you can do mindfulness walking. So given that most of us have been walking for a long time at this point, we don't think about walking. But if you really slow down and think about, what muscles am I using? What's it like when my foot contacts the ground or the road? Mindful movement is also another great way to bring yourself back present and just ground yourself in the moment. I also encourage people who really are starting to feel anxious or overwhelmed, pausing throughout the day and taking 5 deep breaths, right? Really just that nice slow inhale. We know that the inhale is the excitatory part of the breath. The exhale is the calming part of the breath. So really focusing on a nice slow, but then allowing your stomach to expand and exhale, and letting that exhale be as slow and purposeful as possible. And that's really going to calm your nervous system down. So I would say make a goal of 5 deep breaths 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. Work on mindful movement, really focusing on experiencing your body for the very first time, and also mindful awareness when you are out. So if you're out on a trail or you're out for a walk, you're out with your dog, really take time and observe it from what we call the beginner's mind. See it for the very first time and see what you're able to notice about your environment.
Awesome. Oh yeah, I love the notice 5 new things. It's something that our kids are doing every single day. I don't know where I got this or where I heard this, but it's something just about how kids see the world versus how adults see the world. And kids are spending their whole day looking up and around and noticing how big everything is and trying to observe that. And adults have their heads down. And I always remember that when I'm on a hike, especially here in as beautiful as out here, I always remember, like, keep your head up. There's really cool things that are in your own little world right there. So I love that advice. It's really cool. Kate, this was fun. I think we're good co-hosts. So we should
Awesome.
definitely do this. We should definitely do this again. We'll find, like, I think the best way to do these is, like, find a niche, like a specific thing. How do you learn how to hammer on an air assault bike for 1 minute? And we could literally do 40 minutes on that, like, easily. It would. There's skills that aren't fun, but they are helpful for a lot of these things. The one thing that's gonna be interesting is people who are doing the 1,000 calories on the bike. When you do that and then you come back and you have the hammer for a minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, it's a game changer. So that is one thing that is really cool from it. So
that is a big game changer. Nice.
I love it because I know Kate on the bike. Our relationship changes a little bit when she's doing that compared to this. This is funny. Well, I would like to say I appreciate everybody who took the time to listen to us. It's pretty cool just to see that you guys are hanging out. Awesome questions from everybody. If you guys are listening to this after it was live, send some questions. We'll answer them at a different moment in time. And yeah, tomorrow's gonna be fun. Let's all keep it positive. The weather's gonna be amazing. Let's get outside and get that fresh air and vitamin D, and just keep pushing as a little family here. So really appreciate it. Thanks, Kate.
You're welcome. Take care. I guess I'll see you in person sometime in the next few months. But until then, stay well.
Next few months. That's so sad.
It is sad, but it's